So it's basically how do we serve the underserved? But if you could also take special consideration for that housing question as well.
Well, considering that I've pushed all the way along, my record is well known that I believe in affordable, moderate income, low income housing, but create ownership, not rental, ownership, with the exception of seniors and the handicap. And we are in the process of creating a 61-unit senior affordable housing up on Artesia Boulevard, where the bank, Farmers Merchant Bank, was at. They're closing down. Whether or not we build housing there at that site, they're closing down their bank, and we are now looking for them to have a smaller. The model of the Farmers and Merchant Bank is not what we have, is not what they do today. So that will go to another spot in the 9th District. However, we do have a bank. It's one block out of the 9th District, it's in the 8th. But again, this is all our neighborhood. All right, and just because it's one block south of South Street doesn't mean it's not in our community. It's our bank, it's our community.
Well, I'm really pleased that we have our City Department of Community Development in place, and that's number one, and we can work well with that department and pay attention to it. Also, we have our Long Beach Housing Development Company, a nonprofit since 1989, who I think are very good about bringing various factions together and looking at our housing issues. I think we have a law that requires that we set aside a certain amount of our redevelopment money for housing. 20% maybe. I think we need to make sure that that's happening. If it is, great, can we get more? If not, then why is it not happening? Also, we need a housing trust fund that actually has money in it. We have a housing trust fund that went through council. It needs to be funded. It would help us a lot with affordable housing. Also, we need to look at taking foreclosures that are out there in the 9th, and there's many, buying those properties, fixing them up, and reselling them as affordable housing. And I'd like to use a chip to follow up on what Val said. This is a quote about our bank, F&M. And this is, are you going to allow this attitude or not? From the Long Beach Business Journal, Val says regarding the F&M Bank, it won't hurt the community too hard because the Bank of America is just 3 blocks outside of the district on Long Beach Boulevard. I find that unacceptable. I think in a district of 60,000 people almost, that we should have a bank. And you need somebody in there fighting for this, bringing it to the forefront, drawing incentives, working with the banks to get them to set up shop in the 9th.
Having been a member of the PAC since its inception, I'm very familiar with low-income housing. Some of the things that we do need to do in the city, instead of turning over land to developers, we need to consider leasebacks. We also need to consider the fact that our housing set-aside gets moved around. It does get moved across the city for different reasons to help out other areas. And that housing set-aside is 20%. Dealing with the idea that we're going to be losing a major bank, just to let you know, Farmers and Merchants is the most independent bank in the country. They will not move anywhere that they cannot own the land, period. So I don't know where they're going to buy in the 9th District, but everybody on their board that I have spoken to says it doesn't look very possible. The idea of coming up with a community credit union where we can all take a part would be the best efforts put forward. I'll spend 30 seconds. The idea of a 90805 credit union would also help with purchase of foreclosured properties. It would help with lending. It would help build the community. It can be placed in a small area, no bigger than this building right here that we're sitting in. So that is something that's being looked at and worked at quietly with someone that does have a background in doing that. There was a community credit union. It is no longer in existence, and I was called in to help with the Naval Shipyard Credit Union, which was in Los Al.
I think this is an excellent question, and I think this is an area where the city, and particularly in the north, we can utilize public and private partnerships. There are models throughout the state, Los Angeles, Oakland, where collaborations are being formed. The EDGE Partnership is one, which has members of the chamber, members of labor, developers, and community groups, businesses working together to address problems like this. That goes back to my point about development that benefits the community benefit agreements. We have to have model, we have to work together and do things outside of what we've done traditionally in lieu of the budget deficit that we're facing. One of the things, again, there are practices and models that are happening successfully, and I think what we have to do is examine those models and wherever possible, take the best practices there and try to invest them here. But it comes with engaging other partners, collaboratives together to make it happen.